So, I'm a little disappointed in all of you. I'm looking at it right now, and I see 99 people. 99 people. Fuck that, I'm about to make that 100 right now. Videos, watch. There we go, 100 views. All 100 of you, including myself, that watched episode 3 of my last podcast, Volganos Translations. Didn't really learn anything. No, you didn't. And I'm very disappointed in you all. You should have gone out there and helped someone get to a new hunter rank or with the quest they needed and not been so selfish. But you didn't, did you? Because I played all week after that, and it was still the same. People are still bitches. I don't understand. You know, what's the point of, you know, being able to play online if you can't actually play online because no one will play with you because they don't want to do what they want? Why can't you just go in a room, do what everyone wants? Because everyone needs everything anyway. But anyway, that was last week's podcast. If you want to know what I'm really bitching about, go listen to that thing. It's a huge rant. You'll love it. You're probably one of those people anyway, so you need to watch it. Today we're going to be talking about something else. And this is episode 4 of Volganos Translations. And we're kind of, you know, moving past the startup phase of what when you start up Monster Hunter, you know, you have that little learning curve or whatever. And we're starting to get past that now. At least we should be. So today I want to talk about something that's really been bugging the hell out of me. But first, before I get to it, I want to do a quick update. What happened last week with me and Monster Hunter. So I made it to HR64 last night. Quite the jump. Went from HR7 to HR64, which is kind of nice. I'm really glad it works that way because I've done a lot of village quests and a lot of farming online and stuff like that. Especially for those goddamn Genogo jewels or Xenogray, whatever they're called. It's Genogo jewel, people. Come on. So I killed the Lamender. I actually found a room last night. They were running urgents, and 2 of them left after I had gone in there and done both of their urgents. They left, so fuck you guys. But one guy stuck around. We waited for someone else. He came in, and we 3-manned my Lamender urgent, which was great. And once you hit that HR7 urgent, get past that, your HR whatever rank, hunter rank is unlocked. So all the quests and everything you do, village, you know, offline, online, arena quests, all that, give you hunter points, and those hunter points add up to give you new ranks every so much. I haven't looked into it. I don't even know if there's a record of where you can look at how many hunter points you have. It should have been in status like it was in Monster Hunter 1 or in past games, but I didn't see it. I didn't look after I got that rank anyway. I just went to bed because I was tired of shit. But so that's kind of cool. I'm glad they have that sort of system there. It kind of shows how much you're playing, how experienced you are. And you unlock things as you go along the way. You unlock different quests. Like as soon as I hit that, I had to talk like the high rank guild quest lady like 10 times because she was like, "Oh, you unlocked a new quest. Oh, you hit this hunter rank, you unlocked a new quest. Oh, you hit this hunter rank, you unlocked a new quest." I was like, "Why can't you just give them all to me at once?" Whatever. It was a bunch of freaking button mashing. A, which to me is circle, which is weird because it's backwards. It should be X. Not the X on 3DS, X on PlayStation. So yeah, Delameter was pretty fun, actually. He's the boss of the game. One of the bosses of the games. I guess there's quite a few, really. And it was different. I had watched Gaijin Hunter's Delameter tutorial, I don't know, like a week or 2 ago, maybe, whenever he put it up. It was like the day he put it up. And that was pretty helpful. I kind of knew what was going on. I will say that it wasn't very helpful in the fact that, and you can't get around this, that you get in there and you just have no idea what direction anything is, but that just comes with acclimation of doing the quest. After 3 times, I had a pretty good idea of what was going on. But for some very small tips for that quest is just, you can lock onto 2 things, the head or the tail, and, you can learn what the tail's going to be, and you can learn what the head's going to be, but really, the head is what you need to worry about, because it has the one-hit KO attacks, or at least strong enough to be those attacks, right? So he's got like a chomp, like a big old bite that moves forward that's really deadly if you don't have like at least 400 defense. And the same thing with a big blast. And the blast was tricky, because I thought it was like a 1-part attack, but no, it's 2. He lines it up, and he does this big blast thing, and he shoots it forward, but then he wears his head back around and does a huge sweep across the whole arena. So if you're in that first area, like, there's no real warning. I mean, you can see it coming, but you don't know exactly where it's going to be. It's not like Superman diving through the big swipe, because it's very obvious. So you really got to watch out for that. And it really wasn't that long a fight. It took us like 20 minutes each time, a little bit under. I think 18 when we 3-manned it, so probably a little bit under that. Carving was, again, the scariest thing ever because I didn't know where I needed to run because I didn't know where I was at, really the first few times. I only did it 3 times. I still don't really know where I'm at, but I got all 8 cards every time. Anyway, you just follow whoever's in there. They know where to go for the most part. It's kind of annoying anyway because the whole body lays everywhere, and it's just big. Like, you just can't really see anything where to run and all that when he's dead, so you just follow everyone else and you'll be fine. So also this week I farmed a bunch of high-rank monsters to get my weapons ranked up. So I have a bunch of duels, lances, great swords. Not great swords. Why did I say great swords? I don't know. I was making this talk and I had great swords stuck in my head, I guess. But duels, a few lances, charge blades, and hammers that are pretty much all ready to go up to G rank, so I just need a bunch of equipment for that. Of course, I had to farm like 35 Janoguas before I got one goddamn jewel, and I had to decide what to make out of that. Luckily, I went through all my options and decided I'm not going to go with the hammers, I'll go with the duels, which I was probably going to do anyway, because, duels with dual element, thunder, and dragon are just destructive as hell. Holy shit, they are awesome, as they were in the past game. Definitely be upgrading those when I get the Fatalis ones further down the road. So that's pretty much where I'm at. Going up to G rank probably next week. I'm going to talk about more about my schedule at the end of this podcast. But let's get into episode 4, Volganos translation / Velociprey talks. Boom, shout out. And we're going to talk today about skills. Okay? Skills are very important. To me, they're the only reason to make an armor set. Armor sets in this game look fantastic. They look fucking phenomenal. Look awesome as hell, right? So cool. But like in the Far Cry game number 4, said that weird. There's a dude who, I forget his name. He's like Ashlami Moa Mr. Miyato or something like that. I don't know, but he says it's always function over form, and that's so true. You have to be able to use something before you decide if it looks good or not. Like if it doesn't look good, why use it? Wait, no, that's backwards, right? See, caught ya. No, you can't do that. Damn it. I have friends that do that all the time. Like, this armor looks awesome. Like, yeah, okay, well, it gives you gathering +5 and, like, handicraft +4 and, like, speed sharpening. And I was like, speed sharpening's good, but, like, what are you going to do when you're out there and your fence is super low and, like, you can't pierce the monster and the screams keep getting to you and, your health is down or something like that? You have to go with skills over how the armor looks. And I've done that in the past with every Monster Hunter game. I'll wear fucking lobster helm out there, looking like a goddamn fool with, bare off chest or something, and, like Garuga pants. I'm looking like a fucking Joker running around there killing things, which alternatively would be a really cool Monster Hunter costume because that's terrifying. But still, I don't care what it looks like, but if it has, like 6 skills that all work really well together, or hell, 4 skills, even 3 skills that work like insanely well together, then I'm going to use it over anything that looks good, And that's not my biggest problem, though. Like, I've been going around here, and I did a little, blind test, whatever you will. Entered a few random rooms over and over again, And I found out that in every time I entered 3 rooms, so 9 different hunters, right? 7 out of those 9 hunters didn't even have skills set up properly. So I went in there, and that basically means that 2 people out of the 3 rooms that I entered had skills that were socketed properly, or decorations that were socketed properly, which gave them skills and or socket out the negative skills or whatever. They clearly had a plan going on with their skill set. They knew what they were doing. Everyone else had no fucking clue. So I'm going to enlighten you a little bit. Here's how decorations work, alright? You put 1 jewel in, it doesn't mean you get the skill. If you put a defense +1 jewel in, you don't get 1 defense. I'm not sure why you'd even want 1 defense. My defense is like 431 right now. 432 isn't going to save me. Okay, well, it might, but no, it's not. No, don't think like that. It's not going to save me, all right? So, first off, you can't. Why would you even do that? Because it doesn't make any sense. Even if you don't understand how it works and you think it works that way, which is incorrect, it's stupid. If you put sleep in +1, oh, I might not fall asleep. That's like 10% chance. Maybe you're thinking that. Okay, well, it's still not very good. It's pretty much a waste. So, skills, when you put them in, you have to get to +10, okay, or -10. Skills work in factors of 5, starting with 10 and going up from there, depending on the skill. Some go further, some don't. Some stop at 10, some stop at 30, all right? So They have to go in that range. And you can tell that because when you go and look at your status and you look at your skills, there will be skills that show up and they are highlighted and you can read what they do. If you don't have any skills showing up, then it's very obvious that nothing is active. So why are you making your fucking armor sets look like Christmas lights, all right? I can swear to God, out of that little survey thing I did, 7 out of 900s didn't have it set up properly. Like 4 or 5 out of 9. I didn't actually count how many, but there were quite a damn few. At least, bordering half had fucking Christmas lights everywhere. It was the most colorful rainbow in the world on the armor set. They had 10 different jewels on there, and they had like 3 pages of skills. I'm like, you don't even know what the fuck's going on. Like, you need to set your thing down, go read the manual or something, go look at Gaijin Hunter, my fucking channel, whoever looks at that. Anyone else, like, Jesus Christ, learn the game a little bit. And it's stupid because in the past games you've had an excuse, right? Because hell, in Monster Hunter 1, skills didn't even really exist. There were no decorations, right? You just made a whole armor set and somehow skills showed up. I remember I made Lobster Mail in the original Monster Hunter, right? I had skills. I was like, holy shit. You made Full Dragon, you had some kick-ass skills, right? You made Hornitar, you had kick-ass skills. And that armor looked awesome. That was a win-win. Bug armor is cool. But in this game, you don't have any excuse because they almost literally like hold your hand and walk you through it. You can go and look at your skill tree, and you hit Y, and it even tells you to hit Y, and you can see what levels it's at. Before you just kind of had to look online or guess. Maybe this goes up to 20, maybe it doesn't. But now it literally maps it out for you, so you know what's being activated. And the thing that bothers me is if you're not reading that thing, if you're not going into that screen and seeing what activation the skills are, you don't know what the skills are doing. So that means that you're just putting in random skills that you think might do one thing and do another, which pisses me off even more. Why can't you just read? Right, America. So anyway, learn to socket your armors, and we're going to go over some skills that are in a few minutes. We're going to go over some skills that are really useful for each weapon class. I'm going to lay it out for you, and there's tons of combinations. It's great. But so here's your main goals for creating a good armor set. Obviously, like I said, skills first. You make a whole common armor set, like you make Regios X, right, or whatever, and that gives you like 3 skills, and you have a bunch of slots to work with. Cool. First thing you should do is look at the negative skill, right? Because almost every armor set comes with some sort of negative skill. Is it manageable? Is it like slow sharpening? It's manageable. Yes, it doesn't really impact your fighting. It might impact the time in between. It'll take you a lot longer to sharpen your weapon, but if you can get to a safe spot, it's not a huge deal. If it's something like, dull blade, that's really bad. If your sharpness goes down at twice the normal rate, you need to socket that shit out, right? Get rid of that. Okay? So find a way to get rid of that. The next thing is, think of what would go with those other skills, because you need to start planning, your decorations. So if you have, sharpness +1 and high grade earplug, okay, well you're on a primarily frontal assault set. You might want to do like, attack up or something. Maybe you want to do speed start sharpening, so you can keep that sharpness +1 up. Sharp sword's a little difficult because I think they counteract one another, but there are skills that work well with one another. If you have, evade up, maybe you need evade +2 or 3. You increase that distance a little bit and keep your invulnerability. There's all sorts of things that go really well together, and they go well together with the weapon you're using. All right. So there are different types of decorations. Once you figure out what you want, you go in those decorations. You have different types of slots: 1, 2, and 3 slots, right? And the 1 slots will either add +1 to one skill, -1 to another skill. So pay very close attention to what that negative skill that you're adding on is, because if it's going to take away from another skill, then you want to find another way around it, and we'll get to that in a second. Or you don't want to make a new negative skill, randomly. So that's where the 2 and 3 socket decorations come into play. So 2 sockets usually give, +3 -1 or +3 -2. And some of the, I forgot to mention this, some of the 1 socket gems can also give +2, and that's it. And those are, what we call 5 socket skills. Those are really useful. Pretty much grinders, that speed sharpening is a 5 socket skill. Whim is a 5 socket skill. If you have 5 sockets and you just don't know what to do with it, nothing really, you can't build anything up any further to like +15, +20, whatever. Just throw in a 5 socket skill. So many of them work across so many different weapon types and everything that they're extremely versatile, and they're very useful. I highly recommend like all of them, just about all of them.
So then, okay, we'll go back. So we had 2-socket skills, which kind of help you, close the gap there. They add that +3, and then this 4-socket skill or 3-socket skills, which give +4 and -2 to a skill. And those are really rare. They're really hard to make. They usually require like a ruby or something goddamn ridiculous to put in there. But it's fine because it makes it worth it. If you have a helm, with hearing, the whole, I think it's Rathalos Z or something like that. Maybe not Rathalos Z, Rathalos S, whatever, U or something like that. One of the Rathalos pieces. I think only gives hearing plus like 10, but it has 3 sockets in the helm. So if you can put in, the 3-socket gem for hearing +4 and then one other hearing thing, all of a sudden you have 4 of your like 8 sockets gone, and you have high-grade earplug, which is insanely useful, Just paying attention to things like that. Another really good way to close that gap is through talismans. Now, talismans kind of piss me off because it's all based on the random number generator, right? You go on a quest, you mine something, or you gather somewhere, and you get a charm. That charm later gets randomly made at the end of the quest into a talisman. These talismans can be very good or very bad. Now, in the past, it's been really shitty because you were locked into a charm table. Now, according to sources, apparently in this game, your charm table resets every time you restart the game, which is phenomenal. Because if you find a good charm table, which constantly giving you good charms, plus mounting plus 10 or whatever. I've seen that one everywhere. Somehow I can't seem to fucking get it, but whatever. Then you can stick to that one. If not, you just restart your game and you might get some better charms. Each charm table has decent charms, but some have much better than others, that's for sure. And some of those charms have slots as well. Some people, I have a friend who's like, oh, I got like a flame aura +1 and like a bomber -5 with 3 slots. I'm going to toss it. I'm like, no, don't toss it. That's 2 skills you're probably never going to use, not to mention the fact that bomber's -5 and not much subtracts from that, but it's got 3 slots. You can use those 3 slots in your armor set, That's a huge deal. One other way they kind of fixed or, aided in getting good charms is you can now re-roll charms. So you go to the guy in Karth and Cathar, I think that's it, the air place. And you go in there, and once you've done the story enough, obviously, most of you, Jesus Christ, go beat the goddamn story for the love of God, alright, will you? Because that's bothering the hell out of me. I go in there and people should have Y stones if they're like HR 77. You don't even unlock Y stones yet. You're like missing a critical part of the game. Jesus, people. Anyway, you get that far, and you can re-roll your talismans. You give them 3 and certain vile crystals, whatever, which you get from beating frenzied or apex monsters, and it'll re-roll. It's completely random, within your charm table, but it's if you have 3 useless talismans, like status -10, who the fuck wants to use that? Then throw it in there, you might get something better out. So once you have a good repertoire of those things, then you can start making some really awesome armor sets. So let's get to some of the skills you really want to use as different classes. So generally speaking, Blade Master, right? There are some good skills that just work all around. Tons of these skills actually are very flexible. You can use it pretty much any weapon class because they're just so general, but they're really good. Some of those include Sharpness +1, which you get from Handicraft, Razor Sharp, which you get from Sharpness Jewels, Speed Sharpening, which you get from Sharpener, Earplug and High-Grade Earplug, which you get from Hearing, and Challenger or like the Affinity Boosters, Expert, stuff like that, which you get. Challenger actually makes it so your attack and affinity goes up when the monster's enraged. So those are sort of ones that you really, you kind of want to have for everything. It works for everything. You can put it in. They're really good skills. And really there are, between Blade Master and Gunner, there are certain skills that are specific to certain monsters, certain armor sets. I'm not really going to go into those today because those are like the end game high skills. Like Seregios has one that gives you like, it's fencing, or Mind's Eye, which makes it so your weapons don't bounce, and it's got Sharp Sword, so Razor Sharp, so your weapon sharpness decreases half the time. Well, you can't really get that anywhere else. I mean, it's like 1 or 2 armor sets that use that, maybe just 1, and a few jewels, I think. Maybe there aren't even any jewels for that. I haven't gotten that far. A lot of skills are like that way. The Fatalis sets always have that. There's no jewels for the armor set, so you have to have the full armor set to get the boost, and so really, it's just useful for everything. I'm not sure, why you wouldn't use those things, but keep an eye out for those. Those aren't things like that you can really mess around with a whole lot. And this is what I'm getting at is when you make an armor set, sure, go right ahead and make the full armor set, right? But keep in mind that if you mix different armor pieces that with similar skills or something like that, you can make something a lot better, almost 90% of the time. So keep that in mind. So some general gunner skills. You're looking for load up, which comes from the loading jewels, which pretty much increases not only your capacity for certain ammo types, but also what sort of ammo types you can use with that weapon. Very extremely useful. And also you're looking for recoil and reload speed up. I mean, both of those things with the gunner and deviation are, the staples, right? So let's get into, we'll just go weapon class by weapon class. Some of the other skills you would be looking for to include with that if you're using that specific weapon type. And a lot of these are pretty obvious, you look at it, it's like, okay, yeah, sharpness +1 for weapon, sure, of course, great sword, whatever. But some of them you might not think about, and there are plenty in here that I didn't include because I want you guys to think about that, like, oh, what if I paired this with this? It's like, yes, do that, whoop ass, all right? So, but here's some examples that I really like to use, and again, I'm not gonna lie, I left out some in here because they're my personal achievements, crowning jewels, that I like combining 2 different skills together, maybe even 3, and I ain't ready to share that yet. So great sword, you're going to want fast charge, obviously, charges your weapon faster. Punish draw and crit draw, because great swords are powerful. I mean, KO damage from punish draw, 100% affinity from crit draw. I mean, come on. If you pair punish draw with knockout king, then you can do work. All right, that makes it so you do KO damage on the release, and you do more KO damage with Knockout King. I mean, great sword, come on. Expert, attack up large. Expert's just increasing affinity, by the way. Destroyer is really good because you can get this charge on those parts. A few charges, you can break parts really easily. Tenderizer also, which makes it so you do more damage to the weak parts. Tenderizer and Destroyer kind of work hand in hand. They seem like the same thing, but they're not. Tenderizer does more damage. Destroyer just makes the part get destroyed easier. Yeah. Some things you may not have thought about is you might want stamina drain for a great sword, and that's not your stamina drain, that's draining the monster's stamina. And you also may want guard or guard up. Now, guard +1/+2, not terribly useful for a great sword, because I mean it isn't as you can guard with a great sword, for those who don't know, but you're not going to be doing a lot of guarding, you're doing a lot of attacking. But guard up or guard increase really makes it so you can block different types of attacks. So normally you can't block, laser beams from like Gravios, laser beams, whatever, or gas attacks, like poison gas from Gypsaros, or not Gypsaros, from Basarios or something. So now you can block those with guard up. And so that's really useful for greatsword, because a lot of times you're in the action and you're like, shit, I can't run away from this Gravios. I don't want to get put to sleep. I'm going to block. Here we go. So think about those things. All right. Longsword. So longsword, fast charge as well, because you build up that meter much quicker. Crit draw, obviously. Knockout or punish draw, I guess. You can also put on expert and attack up. Evade and evade distance. I really like evade distance with longsword, because you can really you can close a lot of distance with the longsword anyway, because it's got a huge range of attack. And evade distance just helps you get out of the way a little bit. Also, element or status up is really useful. Mind's Eye, you're not bouncing off of weapon or monsters when you don't have the sharpness to pierce them, is really useful, because with longsword it makes you extremely vulnerable. Unlike dual swords or something, you bounce off and you're good to go a lot faster. Longsword, not the case. And critical eye, which useful too. Sword and shield, you're going to want guard and guard +1. And before I get into Sword and Shield, this one, a lot of people think Sword and Shield is really like an interesting weapon class, and I have to agree with them, because to me, Sword and Shield isn't so much about doing damage, right? You can do a lot of damage, you can do a lot of elemental damage and stuff like that, but the Sword and Shield is extremely maneuverable, and it's got a lot of flexibilities. You can get in there and get out really quickly, and so I like using it for sort of like a helper set, sort of like an aid, almost like a hunting horn. So guard +1, guard would be really good, because like you're in there. But really, I like using wide range with Sword and Shield. Item use up, quick eating, recovery up. And that's because those skills work really well together, because Sword and Shield doesn't have to sheath their weapon to eat items or use items. Most items, at least. So if you have wide range and unmuse up, wide range plus 2, of course, and you take a potion, you can take that right away. It's a life powder at that point. If someone's in danger, you don't have to sheath your weapon and take all the time to do that. You can just eat it right away. Everyone's good to go. Especially with quick eating. Sadly, those skills kind of work against each other when you try and sock them in. But if you can work with some different armor sets, you can actually make it work really well. Had an amazing set in Unite that I used for that. Or was it Portable Third? I think it was Unite. Very useful. You also might want to consider Constitution and Evade, sort of alternatives to the Guard. Constitution uses less stamina. And of course, Element and Status Up. Status Up for Sword and Shield is just fantastic. Some of the best weapons in the games in the past have been the Sleep and Paralyze Sword and Shields, just because they can get so many times those effects down. It's not becoming one of my favorite classes in the games. Dual Swords, just right out the bat, the obvious ones. Constitution, Evade Inc., Razor Sharp, and Element and a Status Attack Up, right? Like, if you get any of those skills, it's going to be great, especially Razor Sharp for Dual Swords. Like, obviously, yes, that works for all Blade Master weapons. Your sharpness goes down half as quickly. But with Dual Swords, you do so many attacks so quickly that sharpness goes down really fast. So having that is extremely useful. Obviously, the Evade and Evade Distance Up are, with the Demon Dash, pretty much irreplaceable. Especially with Evade plus 3 now. I have to try that out sometime. I have Evade plus 1 down. Evade plus 2, I'm practically invulnerable. Evade plus 3 is going to be awesome. Element and Status Attack Up, obviously you get so many hits in, you're going to be doing so much damage with either of those, getting those effects down. Critical Eye, Destroyer is really good because you can focus on parts, specific monster parts. Speed Sharpening. Marathon Runner is really useful if you don't like using Mega Juices, or whatever they're called, dash juices, energy drinks, all that stuff, because when you use your demon mode, your stamina won't go down as quickly when you're doing that. So Marathon Run is really useful. And also Critical Element and Critical Status. Those are some of those skills I said are kind of specific to specific armor parts. But with the Demon Dance, if you start with the critical hit or an affinity hit, then the whole Demon Dance is affinity hits, which is like 11 attacks. So with Element or Status, you destroy with those two skills. So let's go on to my second favorite weapon class, Hammer. Fast Charge, obviously. Do you need an explanation for that? No. Attack Up, Knockout King. Again, obviously. Stamina Drain. Yes, you're already draining stamina. Why not drain more? Marathon Runner goes really well with Fast Charge and Knockout King. Those 3 skills, you got an awesome set. Punish and Critical Draw. You have to be a little careful with this. I think in the past games, it's been where the whole... it's just a part of the attack, I believe. Or maybe it was the whole attack. I don't remember. I have to look it up. For like if you do a Super Pound or something, for Punish and Crit Draw, it either would do the upswing hit and or the main ground pound slam. So you kind of have to be careful with that. I'm not sure what way it works in this game. You gotta look into that. But nonetheless, with the mounting system and all that, Punish Crit Draw would be very useful as well for Hammer. High grade earplugs, particularly with Hammer, because you're doing the charge, you don't really want to evade out of that to avoid a scream or something like that. You want to be able to get real close, get hits on the head, and knock them out. And here's something that most people wouldn't think of for Hammer, specifically, is Adrenaline, right? Adrenaline increases your attack dramatically when your health gets underneath a certain percent. I think it's like 30%, which is kind of scary. But with Hammer, the way I like to play, and you can do it differently, is I like to go in and get hits and back out, right? Because I'm going in with a charge, getting a big golf swing or super pound, backing out. When they're down on the ground, I'll do triple pounds or something like that. But really, for Hammer, for me, it's sort of I'm not always in the action, so I can withstand being low health and sort of being out of the way, and taking my hits selectively, because I'm doing enough damage as it is, and I have a main goal of knocking out the monster, that there are specific openings for that you really don't have to worry so much, as long as you know the monster's moves, about getting hit. So Adrenaline's really useful for Hammer, especially with the high attack. Hunting Horn is a little different than Hammer, but it's sort of like a mix between Hammer and Sword and Shield. It's like big damage dealer, but really a lot of support. So Attack Up and KO King, Stamina Drain are, staples, pretty much. Horn Maestro is... I don't know why you wouldn't use it. It's extremely easy to get. I think it's like a 5-socket skill, and it makes all of your effects last longer, which is just great. Also, since a lot of the time you might be playing notes off to the side or something, maybe recovery up or wide range. And also I really like Evade Inc. for Hunting Horn, because almost each one you can pretty much do movement speed up, right? Which makes you and everyone else move a lot quicker, which is great. But sometimes you can't get that off right away, and Evade Inc., because Hunting Horn is so slow, you move really slow with it, really helps you cover some ground and get out of the way when you need to. And I think that's just a great skill to pair with it. So Lance might be a little obvious. You're going to want Guard and Guard Inc. Here's some things you may not have thought about, though. Evade and Evade Distance are extremely useful, particularly Evade Distance, because in order to get out of a monster's way, it can take anywhere between 2 and 4 different evades, because they're back hops. You don't go as far with them. But Evade Distance, you can really get out of the way that way, and it's fantastic. And even Evade, since you don't have that nice dodge roll, and it's really obvious to tell when you're evading, so when your feet are off the ground, you can really utilize that. Constitution, obviously with either guard or evading, is going to be really useful. Use less stamina during those events. And Mind's Eye, or fencing, so you don't bounce. Bouncing with the lance or gun lance is like the worst thing you can ever do. It exposes yourself for like almost a full second and a half, and it's terrible. So I almost always have to have that when I lance. Sheathing is something that I also really love to have. Not a necessity, but really love to have it for lance, because it takes so long to put your weapon away that quick sheath just changes the game. Also, potential, or adrenaline. It'd be really useful for lance, because you can go in there and if you have that guard up, you can stay real close and do a lot of damage without worrying about getting your health down too far, or further, since you're already down really low. Destroyer would be really useful, because you can get, or Tenderizer, because you can get really close, really focused hits on the parts that you're looking for, and you got pretty good range, both low and high for lance. Gun lance, evade is okay. It's pretty much the same deal as the lance. It's better than a roll. Evade distance, I wouldn't recommend for gun lance. It takes you a little further away than you might want to be, and you can close the gap with the gun lance's running attack thing there. But depending on the monster you're facing, sometimes it kind of actually throws off where the distance you're at, and you might not want that. And with it's kind of funny. It contradicts what I said about the lance trying to get out of the way, but I don't know. For gun lance, it just seems a little weird to me. Maybe, I don't know. It just seems a little too far sometimes. Even with the running dash, sometimes the distance doesn't seem to be paired up right. Might have changed in this game. Probably has changed in this game, because I haven't tried gun lance yet. Obviously, Mind's Eye again with the bouncing, sheathing still, and then also Guard and Guard Inc. Again, obviously, you have a big ass shield. You're gonna want to use it. Some things that you should think about for gun lance is artillery, which increases the damage of your Wyvern's Fire and all your gun lance shots, and load up, which is a gunner skill that you can actually get in to a Blade Master set, usually by using either a talisman, 3-socket or 3-socket armor pieces, or particularly sacrificing defense and maybe looks for a gunner's cap instead of a Blade Master's helm, right? But load up increases your ammo capacity for your gun lance shells, which, to be honest, isn't particularly advantageous really in this game. It used to be, not so much now. But if you're looking for another skill, something to keep in mind. Razor Sharp is also going to be really useful, because all of your gun lance shots decrease your sharpness pretty quick. And, of course, potential, again, because you have a shield, you can stay pretty close. Switch Axe is, pretty easy. Fast Charge, help build up your files and everything, or your meter quicker. But otherwise, pretty much the same skills you'd see with Longsword, really. Charge Blade is, like gun lance, is a little different. You're going to be looking for Sharp Sword, Knockout King because of the files, or Element or Status Attack Up, again because of the files. Load Up would be pretty useful. You get more files. That's actually a little more advantageous than gun lance, especially with your Charge Blade. Your axe portion of that would really benefit from that. Artillery, again, gains bonus. The Charge Blade gets bonus from artillery. Fast Charge, I don't know. I don't really think fast charge is terribly useful, but it does affect it. Helps your files build up quicker. But really, I don't know. With the sword mode, you get it pretty quick anyway. And then, of course, guard and guarding, because you have a shield. Really, I wouldn't worry about guard, since you're pretty mobile. You could, maybe work with evade in there or something, or just get out of the way. But guarding can again be, you're in the middle of the fight. You don't want to run away. You can't run away quick enough from like gas or something. Guarding could be useful. Insect glaive, I haven't used yet, so I don't know. To me, it seems like you pretty much see the same skills as longsword. But there's one skill that I think is like the biggest necessity ever for insect glaive, and that's the mounting skill. I've seen tons of people with the talisman of 4 plus 10 to mounting. Just throw it on any insect glaive set, and you got like an instant pwn mode. As far as light bowgun goes, my favorite thing with light bowgun to do is rapid shot up and element attack up. Those 2 skills alone, you can dominate pretty much anything. Obviously, load up is going to be good for any of the ranged weapons. Evade distance, I think, is really good. And destroyer, because you can focus on certain things. And you're really going to want, or if you're trying to find another skill to put in there, try and put in sneak, which is from the sense jewels. Sneak makes it so you're less likely to be targeted by monsters, and so at range distance, the monsters won't be chasing you all the time, which is good for everyone, because then you're not constantly having to move, and everyone else isn't constantly having to chase the goddamn monster all over the place. But really, with light bowgun and heavy bowgun, you really want to fit to your weapon specifically, like whatever weapon you're using most, because the ammo can change each time. Then you're going to want to fit that. If you don't have any elemental shots, then don't put rapid fire and element attack up. Put something else. If you have high Crag ammo being used, put KO King on there, because Crags on the head do KO damage, right? And I love it when gunners do that. Like I did that. My brother did that all the time in Unite. He'd come in with Crag and KO and pow right in the face, and it'd knock the monster out. I'm like, okay, sweet. Like just so useful pairing that together. Heavy bowgun, sort of the same things as light bowgun. Sneak, kind of fit to your specific weapon that you're using. You can use potential for any of the ranged weapons, which really works, phenomenally, just because you're out of the way all the time anyway, and you can have great view of the monster to dodge everything. But if you put a shield on your heavy bowgun, which I think you can still do in this game, again, haven't made it to the point where I've made a gunner armor set yet in this game for Ultimate. Put on Guard Ink or Guard and Auto Guard, right? Because then monsters coming at you, if you're not super confident with getting in the way yet or learning monster attacks, that Auto Guard is going to save you so much. And that's only with heavy bowgun. Light bowgun doesn't have a shield or anything. Bow is something that I really like using. It's fun to use. I don't know. It does really good damage for the most part. They've toned it down a little bit since the past games, but it is what it is. So sneak, again, obviously because your distance. Evade distance would be really useful. Destroyer, because again, you have really good aim, really good advantage points from all the different parts or areas to attack. Load up is almost a must for any bow set, because you have only so many different types of shots, and to get that extra shot in there is, at a higher level it's just great. Fast charge is also almost a must, or at least marathon runner, one of the two, because every time you draw back your bow, you're using stamina, and that goes really quickly. Alternatively, I guess you could just use mega juice or whatever. That might solve the marathon runner part, but fast charge is just great, because really, who uses the first and second charges of a bow, right? You want 3, 4, maybe 5, definitely. If you have an arc shot bow, I really recommend KO King. If you can get that on there, especially the concentrated or focus arc shot, super awesome when you get a KO with a bow. Everyone's like super impressed. Status up is useful, but if you're like me, you don't always bring all 5 combo books and everything for bowing. Probably for gunning you do, and so you're not making files on the go. So I pretty much bring my 20 and call it good. And so status up, you might be able to get 2, probably guaranteed 2 status effects, but beyond that, I don't know. I tend to ignore it and put other things in front of it, at least. Element up is, of course, very useful, and power coding up is something you're going to want. Power coding up is the ability to use power coding if your bow does not have it. And every bow needs power coding. It does. And the really strong ones don't. And so you put that on there, and the really strong ones are even stronger. So that's everything, actually. That was a whole lot of skills I just rambled off. go back, listen to whatever weapon class you like most. And again, make your armor set fitting to your weapons that you like to use most. It's really useful when you can make one armor set that's versatile amongst multiple weapons. Like I made the Garuga S recently, about a few days ago, something like that, over the weekend, I think. And I tailor it to all my duels. Depending on the talisman I have, and depending on the monster, I can set up my equipment set to be either high grade earplug or regular earplug. And that's something I want to touch on real quick. Is in past games they've done differently, but this one they do it just about perfect, which they've also done in the past too. They tried both different ways. If you set an equipment set with decorations, those are the only decorations you ever need. Let's say you have an equipment set with 5 slots, right? Just very easy, 5 slots. You want to put a 5-socket skill in, we'll put in the grinder jewels or sharpener jewels for speed sharpen, right? So you have 5 speed sharpen jewels, you put them in one armor set, you register that equipment set, right? Well, let's say you want to make another set, right? And you want to put, that also has 5 slots. It's a totally different armor set, totally different pieces. You don't want to have to make the 5 grinder jewels over again, the 5 sharpener jewels. So you can just take them out of your other armor set, put them in that current set, and register that current set. As long as you still have 5 grinder jewels anywhere, when you equip that set through the equip registered set mechanism screen, whatever, it'll take those grinder jewels wherever they're at and put them in the set that you want to wear. So you only need those gems. So it works for any gem. If you have hearing +4 -2 protection, I think it is, gem for 3-socket armor piece or talisman, whatever. You only need 1 if you want to move it around. As long as you go through the equip a set screen, then you don't have to do it manually, and it's like the best system ever. Definitely worth it. So go out there, make an awesome armor set. Get rid of your Christmas lights and your negative skills if it's worth it. Do something about that. It's 100% worth the trouble of looking into different sets and stuff like that. The skills are just what you're making the armor set for. So that's all I had to talk about today. This coming week I'm going to be headed to G rank soon, but of course I've got like 3 exams next week in 2 days, and so my playing time is going to be cut down dramatically if I am responsible enough this weekend. So probably won't be making much progress until later next week. And I'm thinking about getting a guest on again for next week to talk about something else, and you'll find out next week when you listen. So thanks for watching, everyone. Really appreciate the views. The comments are fantastic. I love comments on videos. I don't care what it is. Throw a comment up. Love to hear it. I'll reply almost every single time, right? I have nothing better to do. So again, thanks for watching, guys, and happy hunting.